The approaches to St Giles are along narrow country roads surrounded by fields. It is a truly rural setting. Packwood is part of that vast ancient woodland known as the Forest of Arden. St Giles Church stands in a wooded glade about a half-mile north of the National Trust manor of Packwood House. We do not know when the first church was built here, but it may have been the late Saxon period. The first stone church dates to the late 13th century and consisted of a simple rectangular nave and chancel. The west tower was added in the late 15th century. At the northeast corner of the nave is the 17th century Featherstone Chapel, built of red brick. Inside, the walls showcase several fine memorials to the members of the Featherstone family of Packwood House. The windows have fragments of medieval stained glass, and the wooden screen is very nicely carved and dates to the 18th century. The west tower was added by a penitent murderer. The story goes that the Lord of Baddesley Clinton, Nicholas Brome, came home unexpectedly to find the local priest tickling his wife under the chin. Assuming that the pair were having an affair, he slew the priest in a rage. Brome had powerful friends, and he was able to gain a full pardon from both the king and the pope. But as an act of penitence, he built the towers for the churches at Baddesley Clinton and Packwood. The tower has ever since been known locally as the Tower of Atonement. Today, the entrance to St Giles is through the south door, which is probably medieval. This is open to the public on Wednesday and Sunday mornings. Perhaps the most interesting interior feature is a partial wall painting on the north side of the chancel arch, where you can make out a fragment of a doom or depiction of the Day of Judgment. The painting dates to the 14th century and was uncovered during a restoration in 1927. Below the wall painting is a huge oaken chest carved from a single piece of wood. This acted as a parish safe and is probably older than the church. The chancel screen dates to the 15th century, and there are fragments of 13th century glass in the chancel windows. There are 15th century benches in front of the choir pews. The geological map shows that St Giles is located on top of Arden sandstone bedrock. The Arden sandstone is sandwiched between the underlying Sidmouth mudstone and the overlying Branscombe mudstone. It is a fluvial sandstone occurring in stringers within the Mercia mudstone group. It was deposited during the Carnian stage of the Triassic period. St Giles Church is constructed of Arden sandstone. This would have been locally derived, but exactly where from is unknown. Local hollows, now occupied by ponds, are scattered around the area and are potential sources for the building stone. An outcrop of Arden sandstone is easily accessible at Henley in Arden. The outcrop shows a range of grain size from silt to medium. Thin clay interbeds with trace fossils and desiccation cracks indicate a fluctuating fluvial deposition environment that periodically dried out. The building stones of St Giles are very fine-grained sandstones, partially cemented with carbonate, making it hard in its fresh state. Thin, silty clay laminations and poorly cemented layers are less resistant and weather out more readily. The blocks of the church show erosion and a breakdown along some of the lesser well-cemented layers. However, given that these building stones have been exposed to the elements for several centuries, they have stood the test of time very well. Arden sandstone was also used for the church at Rowington, a couple of miles to the southeast. Nearby exposures can be seen in outcrop along the Rowington Canal cutting. Local quarries are seen near the canal. The cross-bedding features here are more pronounced than seen at St Giles. The yellow-grey replacement stones used for repairs to the church seem to have come from two different sources. One is dominantly fine-grained and the other commonly medium-grained. Degradation of these replacement stones can be seen in part, indicating its less durable nature than the original Arden sandstone. Both are possibly Carboniferous age rocks of unknown origin. The red-coloured replacement stones are probably Bromsgrove sandstone of the Sherwood sandstone group. The ancient church of St Giles has stood on this site for over 800 years. It has a full peal of bells and a choir. This is a delightful country church, not spectacular or overwhelming. It is easy to walk to St Giles from nearby National Trust property Packwood House. One last claim to fame for Packwood's church: the parents of Dr. Johnson, he of dictionary fame, were married at St Giles.